Okay, picture this for a second. It's a global event. It happens every single year.
Every single year, without fail.
And it involves billions of people. I mean, literally billions, all at the same time, shifting their entire circadian rhythm.
Oh, completely. Sleep schedules get flipped upside down.
Your caffeine habit, gone. Cold turkey. And for all the daylight hours, there is absolutely zero intake, no food, no water, not even a sip.
And if you were to walk down the street and ask the average person what we're describing, they'd probably nod and say, oh, sure, that's Ramadan.
Yeah.
That's the month where Muslims starve themselves.
Exactly, the month of hunger. That is the external brand.
Yeah.
Right. And honestly, if you're just looking at it from the outside, just the mechanics of it, that is the most obvious feature. It looks like a 30-day endurance test.
Yeah.
A test of starvation.
It really does. But we are sitting in front of a stack of sources here today that is, let's just say it's a little intimidating.
Just a little.
We've got everything from, 1,400-year-old legal texts and classical Quranic exegesis, they call it tafsir, all the way up to modern metabolic health journals and, believe it or not, productivity guides.
And when you stack them all up, they paint a completely different picture.
A radically different picture. I mean, if you think Ramadan is just about not eating, you are missing the entire architecture of the thing. It's not a starvation diet.
No.
It's a spiritual boot camp. It's a masterclass in psychology, in self-discipline, and community building that has been running uninterrupted for 14 centuries.
A spiritual boot camp. I love that framing. It just clicks.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to unpack the architecture of this fast.
We're going inside.
We are. We're going to look at the legal rules, which are, frankly, way more complex and more interesting than just don't eat. We're going to look at the biological impact on your body, which is just fascinating stuff about cellular repair.
Oh, autophagy. We have to get into that.
We absolutely do. And we're going to look at the spiritual rewiring that is supposed to happen. But before we dive into all the heavy stuff, I found something in the etymology that really, it set the tone for me.
You're talking about the root of the word Ramadan itself, aren't you?
Yes. So I always assumed Ramadan just meant something like the holy month or the month of fasting, something generic. But the word actually comes from the Arabic root ramad. And get this, it translates to something like scorching heat.
Sun-scorched sand.
Right. It's a very visceral, intense image, isn't it? It just evokes this picture of the desert heat baking the earth until it cracks.
Absolutely. It's not a gentle pastoral image. It's one of intensity.
But here's the metaphor that just blew my mind. The sources say this name isn't just about the weather or, the season it originally fell in. It's about what the month is supposed to do to you.
To your soul.
To your soul. Just as that intense heat burns the ground, Ramadan is designed to burn away your sins and your worldly appetites. It's like a kiln for the soul. You go in raw, and the heat purifies you.
It's a metallurgical metaphor, really. I mean, think about refining gold. You don't get pure gold by just washing it with water. It doesn't work that way.
Right, you need fire.
You have to apply intense heat. You have to burn off all the impurities, all the slag, so that what you're left with is something valuable, something pure. And that's really the mission of our deep dive today. We want to understand how that burning process actually works.
How does that purification happen?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So whether you're listening and you observe Ramadan, or maybe you're supporting someone who does, or you're just, a fan of human discipline and want to know how to hack your own willpower, we're looking at how this 1,400-year-old practice rewires the brain and the body.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning, the foundation. We have this comprehensive analysis of Surah al-Baqarah in the Quran, specifically verses 183 to 187. This is the section where the rules were laid down.
This is the source code.
It is. And what jumped out at me immediately from the sources is that this wasn't just some sudden cold turkey decree. It wasn't like, okay, everyone, starting tomorrow, no lunch.
No.
It was a pedagogical approach, a gradual introduction.
Absolutely. And that's a crucial insight into how Islamic law, or Sharia, tends to operate.
Right.
It respects human psychology. I mean, you have to remember, the early Muslims in 7th century Arabia were being weaned off a lot of pre-Islamic habits and traditions.
Yeah, a lot of ingrained behaviors.
A lifetime of them.
Yeah.
So the Quran introduces this major obligation gradually. And if you look at verse 183, the very first thing that's established is the purpose. It doesn't start with the hunger. It starts with the why.
Right. Verse 183, it says, "O you who have believed, decreed upon you is fasting, as it was decreed upon those before you, that you may become righteous."
And that one word for righteous, tetequin, which comes from the root taqwa that is central to everything we're going to talk about today. You really can't understand the fast without understanding taqwa.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's spend a minute on taqwa. Because righteousness in English can sound a bit, I don't know, a bit generic, or maybe even a bit holier than thou.
It can sound very passive, can't it? But the source material describes it in a much more active, dynamic way. You mentioned it earlier. It's described as a shield.
A shield, yeah.
The root word implies a barrier, a protection, or a shield. There's a scholar in our notes, Dr. Siddiqui, and he describes taqwa not just as being good, but as a state of high moral alertness. It's God consciousness, a constant awareness.
There's an analogy in the notes that I really, really liked. Compared taqwa to walking through a thorny path.
That's a famous description. I think it comes from one of the companions of the Prophet, and it's perfect. Imagine you are walking through a dense path, and it's covered in sharp thorns. You wouldn't just stride through carelessly, would you?
No way. I'd be looking at every single step.
You'd be hyper-aware. You'd pull your clothes close to your body so they don't get snagged.
Yeah.
You'd watch exactly where you place your foot. That state of intense alertness, that internal voice saying, don't get snagged by the thorns of sin, that is taqwa.
So fasting is the training ground for that alertness. It's the gym for the soul.
It's the gym for the soul. That's a great way to put it. The logic is incredibly sound. If you can discipline yourself to stay away from food and water, which are essential for survival and are normally 100% permissible.
Things you need to live.
Exactly. If you can control that most basic primal urge, then you are training your willpower to easily stay away from lying or cheating or stealing or backbiting, which are actually prohibited in the first place.
You're building the muscle of resistance.
That's it. It's impulse control training on a massive scale.
It's basically the marshmallow test, but for 1 billion people for 30 days straight.
It kind of is, yes.
And the verse also mentions, as it was decreed upon those before you. That's an interesting little bit of psychological comfort tucked in there.
It is. It's so important. It's the safety in numbers concept, or maybe better, safety in continuity. It's telling the listener, look, you aren't the first people to do this. This isn't some strange new punishment we just invented.
Right. You're not a guinea pig in some new divine experiment.
Exactly. It connects them to the Abrahamic tradition, Christians, Jews, previous prophets who all had traditions of fasting. It validates the hardship by showing it's a time-honored path to the divine. You aren't suffering alone. You're joining a legacy of faith.
Now, here is where it gets really, really interesting for me, the evolution of the rules. I honestly had no idea about this until I read through our stack. The sources mentioned that initially there was a choice phase.
This is a fascinating historical nugget that often gets overlooked. When the command first came down, in verse 184, it seems there was a concession built in.
A kind of on-ramp.
A perfect on-ramp. If you were able-bodied but just found it too difficult, or maybe you just weren't spiritually ready to commit to the hunger, you could choose not to fast.
Wait, really? You could just opt out? Just say, nah, not for me this year.
You could opt out, but there was a price tag attached. It wasn't free. You had to pay a ransom. They call it fidya.
And what was that?
It involved feeding a poor person for every single day you missed.
So it was fasting or our philanthropy. You pick one.
In the very early stages, yes, it was a binary choice. But notice how that verse ends. It says, and to fast is best for you if you only knew. It was nudging them, encouraging them, but giving them that training wheel.
It's like saying, we really want you to take the advanced class, but if you absolutely can't, you can, donate to the scholarship fund instead.
That's a great analogy. But then the training wheels came off.
Then came the mandate phase.
Right. Verse 185 drops. And this changed the game entirely. It says, so whoever sights the new moon of the month, let him fast it. That phrase, let him fast it, is an imperative command in the Arabic. It's not a suggestion anymore.
It's an obligation.
It's an obligation. It abrogated or overruled the choice for healthy, able-bodied people. If you are healthy and you witnessed the month, you must fast. The opt-out clause was deleted from the contract.
So why the shift? Why go from this flexible choice to a non-negotiable command?
Because verse 185 also reveals the reason for Ramadan's sanctity. It's the punchline. It says, this is the month in which the Quran was revealed.
Ah, okay. That's the key.
That's the whole key. So the fast became a form of communal gratitude for the guidance of the Quran itself. It moved from being just a personal spiritual exercise to a collective celebration of the divine text. It's like saying, this guidance is so valuable, it's such a gift, that we are going to dedicate an entire month of physical restraint to honor it.
That context is huge. It really reframes the entire practice. It moves it from just a physical act of endurance to a celebration of knowledge of the text.
A celebration of guidance.
Speaking of the text, let's talk about the timing. The white thread and the black thread. Verse 187. I just love the imagery here, but the backstory is even better.
It's incredibly poetic, but you're right. Historically, this verse was actually a massive relief valve for the community.
So the verse says, and eat and drink until the white thread of dawn becomes distinct to you from the black thread.
This defines the window we all know today. You fast from Fajr, which is true dawn, to Maghrib, which is complete sunset. But there's a historical backstory to verse 187 that shows God's mercy, or this recurring concept of ease in the law.
This is the story about sleeping, right?
Yes. In the very, very beginning, before verse 187 was revealed, the rule was, well, it was brutal.
How so?
You fasted all day, you broke your fast at sunset, but, and this is the key part, if you fell asleep after breaking your fast, that was it. The window for eating and drinking closed. You could not eat or be intimate with your spouse again until the next sunset.
Oh, wow. That sounds dangerous. Imagine you come home from a hard day's work, you're exhausted, you have a few dates, and you accidentally nap on the couch at 7 p.m.
And you wake up at 8 p.m.?
You wake up and realize, well, I guess I'm fasting for another 24 hours straight.
It caused immense hardship. The sources mention people fainting from exhaustion and hunger. There were even instances of people secretly breaking this rule because it was just biologically unsustainable for many.
I can imagine.
So, verse 187 was revealed specifically to lift that burden. It explicitly says you are permitted eating, drinking, and intimacy all through the night up until dawn. It didn't matter if you slept or stayed awake. It was a massive, massive relief for the early community.
It really highlights that theme we see again and again in the sources. God intends for you ease, not hardship. The rules are strict, but they aren't meant to be impossible.
Precisely. The law is not designed to break the human being. It's designed to discipline them. There's a very big difference.
Okay, let's pivot from the why and the when to the how. The rules of engagement. We're getting into fiqh, or Islamic jurisprudence. And the first thing the expert source points out, which I found profound, is that fasting is unique compared to almost any other religious act because it is an invisible act.
This is such a deep point. I mean, think about the other major pillars of Islam. If you pray, you are physically bowing and prostrating. People can see you do it.
It's a physical performance.
If you give charity, usually money changes hands. There's a visible transaction. If you go on the pilgrimage to Mecca, the Hajj, you are literally in a crowd of millions of people all dressed the same. It is hyper visible.
But fasting?
Fasting is a negative action. It's the absence of doing something. I could be sitting here right now fasting, or I could have just eaten a sandwich 5 minutes ago in the break room. You can't tell just by looking at me.
Right. I could go into the pantry, eat a Snickers bar, come back out and act all tired and hungry, and nobody would have a clue.
Nobody would know, except God. And that's the entire point. There is a very famous Hadith Qudsi, which is a tradition where God speaks directly through the prophet, where he says, fasting is for me and I shall reward for it.
Fasting is for me. That's so personal.
It implies a special private contract. It builds integrity because it's a secret between you and the divine. You are maintaining a rule when absolutely no human authority is watching you. It's the ultimate honor system.
The honor system on steroids. I like that. And that connects directly to the critical component of intention, or niyya. The sources are very clear on this. It's not enough to just starve. You have to mean it.
Correct. If you just accidentally sleep through lunch and don't eat all day because you were busy at work, that's not fasting.
That's just skipping lunch.
That's just an oversight. You need a deliberate internal resolution, an act of the will, where you consciously decide that you are doing this act for the sake of God.
And this is where the lawyers, the scholars really get into the weeds. We have these different schools of thought, the madhabs, and they actually debate when you have to make this intention. I found this surprisingly technical, but really fascinating.
It is a classic scholarly debate, and it really comes down to how they view the nature of time in Ramadan. Is it one big event or 30 small ones?
Okay, break that down for us.
On one side, you have the Shafi'i and Hanbali schools. They view Ramadan as 30 separate, distinct acts of worship. Monday's fast is totally independent of Tuesday's fast.
So because they are separate days, you need a separate login for each one. A new intention every night.
That's a perfect way to put it. They say you must renew your intention every single night before dawn. You have to consciously form the thought, I intend to fast tomorrow for the sake of God.
So what happens if you forget? You go to bed on Tuesday night, you're exhausted, and it just slips your mind. Is Wednesday's fast just invalid?
According to their strict view, yes. The act of worship is missing its foundational component. You'd likely have to make that day up later. It's very precise.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure.
It is. But then you look at the Maliki school. They take a broader, perhaps more holistic view of the month.
Oh, so.
They say, look, Ramadan isn't 30 separate sprints. It's one long marathon. It's a single, unified block of worship.
So one intention covers the whole race.
Exactly. They say you can make one blanket intention at the very beginning of the month. On the first night, you say, I intend to fast all of Ramadan. And that single intention covers you for the whole month.
That sounds a lot less stressful, much more practical.
It is efficient. But there is a very important caveat. If you break the streak, say you get sick for 3 days, or you have to travel and you miss a couple of days, the block of fasting has been interrupted.
So you have to reset.
You have to reset. When you resume fasting, you have to make a new intention to cover the rest of the month.
And the Hanafis, they usually have a pragmatic twist on things in our deep dives.
They do, and this is no exception. The Hanafi school is generally the most flexible on this specific point of timing. They prefer the intention at night, but they allow it to be made even after dawn has broken.
So you could wake up in the morning and then make the intention.
Yes, up until about midday, with one crucial condition. You haven't done anything to break the fast yet. So if you wake up late, realize it's Ramadan, and you haven't eaten or drunk anything, you can still form your intention then and there, and your fast is valid.
They really account for the human factor, for just, life happening.
They do. It's a reflection of how these different legal philosophies balance precision with practicality.
It's just fascinating how these ancient legal nuances reflect different ways of viewing the act. Is it 30 separate sprints or one long marathon? Okay, let's bust some myths. What actually breaks the fast?
The big three are clear and universally agreed upon: eating, drinking, and sexual intimacy. Those are the hard lines.
But there's a loophole. The forgetful loophole. I love this one. It feels like a glitch in the matrix.
It's not a glitch, it's a mercy. The Prophet taught that if you eat or drink out of genuine forgetfulness, you literally forgot you were fasting, it doesn't count against you. Your fast is still perfectly valid.
So it's about the intention again.
It's all about the intention. The tradition beautifully says, it is God who has fed him and given him to drink.
So let's play this out. I'm working from home. I'm on autopilot. I walk into the kitchen. I see a glass of water on the counter, and I just down the whole thing. Halfway through, I realize, oh my God, it's Ramadan.
The moment you remember, you stop. You spit out whatever is still in your mouth. And you continue your day as if nothing happened. You don't have to make it up. You don't have to pay a penalty. It's a freebie from God.
That is surprisingly forgiving. But what about the gray areas? Modern life brings up questions the 7th century didn't have, like toothpaste or mouthwash.
And this comes up every single year without fail. The general consensus among scholars is based on the principle of the miswak. That's the traditional cleaning twig the Prophet used. We know from reliable narrations that he used it while fasting.
Okay, so oral hygiene is allowed.
Not just allowed, it's encouraged. Therefore, you can use toothpaste and a toothbrush. The key is that you don't swallow it. The prohibition is about ingestion for nourishment or quenching thirst, not about experiencing a taste.
What about saliva? This sounds silly, but people ask.
You'd be surprised how many people panic about this. Can I swallow my own spit? Yes, of course. Swallowing your own saliva is absolutely fine. It's a biological necessity. You can't fast if you're spitting every 3 seconds.
That would be a different kind of hardship.
However, the scholars do add a little fine print. You can't, for instance, gather a huge amount of saliva in your mouth and then swallow it intentionally. And you can't swallow someone else's saliva.
Good rule for life in general, honestly.
Probably for the best.
What about medical stuff? This is a big one. Injections, vaccines.
This is where the legal theory gets really interesting. The scholars differentiate between what is nutritional and what is non-nutritional.
So it's not about the needle, it's about what's in the syringe.
Exactly. If you are hooked up to an IV drip that is feeding your body glucose and vitamins and electrolytes, that absolutely breaks the fast.
Because it defeats the purpose. You aren't feeling the hunger or thirst anymore.
Precisely. It bypasses the stomach, but it nourishes the body, which is what fasting is meant to prevent. But a vaccine, an insulin shot for a diabetic, a painkiller injection, most scholars, the vast majority, say those do not break the fast.
And the reasoning?
The reasoning is threefold. They aren't considered food or drink in the customary sense. They don't enter the body through the normal passages of the mouth or nose. And critically, they don't stop the feeling of hunger.
That's a crucial distinction for people who rely on medication. Now, we have to talk about crime and punishment, because if you break the fast intentionally, it's not just a slap on the wrist.
No, it is not. And here we need to distinguish between two concepts, qada and kafara.
Okay, what's the difference?
Qada is simple repayment. You owe a day, you pay a day. You got sick and missed a day. You make it up later by fasting one day. You traveled, make it up later. You accidentally swallowed a mouthful of water while swimming, make it up later. It's a one-for-one transaction.
But kafara, that sounds more serious. The sources call it the heavy artillery.
Kafara is the expiation, the penalty for a blatant, intentional violation of the month's sanctity. And the classical texts are very specific. This penalty applies to engaging in marital intimacy during the fasting day.
So this is for a willful violation of a core rule.
Yes. And the penalty is designed to be a massive deterrent.
And what is it?
You have to fast for 60 consecutive days.
Whoa, 60 for breaking one day.
For breaking one day in that specific way, yes. 2 full months straight, and it has to be consecutive. If you fast 59 days and then you skip a day without a valid medical reason, you start back at day 1.
That is unbelievably intense.
It is. And if you are physically unable to fast the 60 days, then the alternative is to feed 60 poor people. This severity isn't just about punishment. It's about emphasizing that this time frame, this month, is sacred ground. It's a sanctuary in time, and you don't trample on it lightly.
That really drives home the seriousness.
Yeah.
But going back to that ease aspect we talked about, there is a very robust exemption system built into the rules. The sources call it the logic of hardship versus ease.
Right. The law is not blind to human suffering or biological reality. There are temporary exemptions and there are permanent exemptions.
Temporary ones seem straightforward. Our sources list travelers, the sick, and pregnant or breastfeeding women.
Yes. For travel, the classical definition is about 80 kilometers or 50 miles. It was the distance that used to be considered a significant journey that would cause hardship. For sickness, it's any illness that fasting would worsen or whose recovery it would delay.
And for pregnant or nursing women, that seems like a very delicate balance. You have 2 lives involved, or at least the well-being of 2 people.
It is, and the rule centers on a reasonable fear of harm. If a pregnant or nursing mother fears for her own health, or crucially fears for the health of her baby, that the baby won't get enough nutrients, for example, she is not just allowed to break the fast. Often, the scholars say she should break it. It would be religiously wrong to harm the child for the sake of the ritual.
And then she just makes up the days later.
She makes up the days later whenever she's able to, after the pregnancy or after she stops breastfeeding.
Okay, but what about people who can't make it up? The elderly, who are too frail? Or people with chronic, incurable illnesses like severe type 1 diabetes or advanced renal failure?
This is the permanent exemption, and this is where medicine and faith intersect beautifully. If fasting will permanently harm you, or if you are simply too frail due to old age to withstand it, it is actually religiously prohibited haram for you to fast. God does not want you to kill yourself in his name. There is no piety in self-destruction.
So what do? They don't just get a free pass, right?
Yeah.
There's an alternative.
There is. They pay the fidya. It's a substitute act of worship. They are required to feed 1 poor person for every single day of Ramadan they miss.
So it's that same fidya from the choice phase coming back.
Exactly. It's repurposed here.
Yeah.
And we have some specific measurements in the source notes.
We do. It depends on the school of thought, but it's based on a certain volume of staple food, wheat, rice, dates, whatever is common in that land.
The Hanafi school estimates it around 812 grams per day, while some of the others put it closer to 510 grams. But the core idea is beautiful. If your body can't participate in the fast, your wealth participates by helping the hungry. You are still an active part of the communal spirit of the month.
I really like that framing. Nobody is left on the bench. You're either fasting or you're feeding. Everyone is involved.
Exactly. It keeps everyone inside the tent of Ramadan, contributing in the way they are able.
Let's shift gears now from the legal text to the internal experience. We're in section 4, the spiritual and psychological boot camp. We've established it's not just about starvation. The source, Ramadan Reflections, talks about the fasting of the senses.
This is the real heart of the matter. This is the difference between someone who is just on a diet and someone who is truly fasting. The sources mention a very famous and very stark prophetic warning. He said, "Whoever does not abandon false speech and acting upon it, Allah has no need of his leaving his food and drink."
That is a scary quote. Allah has no need. It basically voids the entire effort. It's like your sacrifice is meaningless.
It implies that the hunger is the least important part if your character is still corrupt. The fasting of the senses means your eyes fast from looking at harmful or illicit content. Your ears fast from listening to gossip or backbiting. Your tongue fasts from lying, from slandering, from hurting others.
It's a holistic detox. It's saying, okay, you've proven you have control over your mouth for food. Now show me you have control over your mouth for words.
Precisely. Your hands have to fast from harming people. Your feet have to fast from walking towards sin. Every part of you is supposed to be in that state of taqwa we talked about.
And it's also about empathy. The sources talk about hunger as a teacher. This really resonated with me.
It's a powerful teacher. When you feel that pang in your stomach at 4 p.m. and you have a headache from caffeine withdrawal and you're irritable, that sensation is a data point.
It's information.
It's a physical reminder that for millions, even billions of people on this planet, this feeling isn't a choice they make for 1 month. This is their Tuesday. This is their life. It dissolves the abstract barrier between the haves and the have-nots.
It creates a visceral physical link. You can't ignore poverty when you feel a version of it in your own body every day.
This reminds me of that amazing passage from the source regarding the Bible, Isaiah 58. I was surprised to see that referenced, but it fits perfectly.
It's a beautiful parallel. The text references the biblical critique of empty ritualistic fasting.
Yeah.
The people in the book of Isaiah ask God, "Why have we fasted, and you have not seen it? Why have we humbled ourselves, and you have not noticed?"
And the response from God is absolutely scathing. It says, "Because on your fasting days, you do as you please and exploit all your workers."
Wow, that's so powerful. It's saying that your personal piety is meaningless if it's paired with social injustice.
Exactly. It goes on to say the true fast, the fast that God chooses, is to loose the bonds of wickedness, to share your bread with the hungry, and to bring the homeless poor into your house. If you fast but you're oppressive to your employees or you ignore the poor in your community, you've missed the entire plot.
The lesson is the same across traditions. The inner state has to match the outer action.
It has to translate into compassion.
And if you do get it right, if you combine the physical fast with the spiritual fast, the reward system described in our sources is astronomical.
It's gamified in the best possible way. It's designed to motivate. First, you have the gates of paradise. The sources mention a specific gate called Rayyan.
And what's special about it?
It's VIP access. It is reserved exclusively for those who fast. The idea is that on the Day of Judgment, a call will go out, "Where are those who fasted?" And they will enter through this gate, and once they are all through, it will be locked forever.
I imagine the line for that gate is long, but it moves pretty fast.
We can hope so. Then there's the incredible promise of forgiveness. There's a saying of the prophet, "Whoever fasts Ramadan out of faith and in hope of reward, his previous sins will be forgiven."
It wipes the slate clean. A total reset.
A total reset. And then there's the multiplication factor. Our sources say good deeds in Ramadan are multiplied anywhere from 70 to 700 times or even more. So it becomes an amazing investment strategy for the afterlife.
It encourages people to do more, give more charity, pray more, be kinder, because the market rate for good deeds is at an all-time high.
You get the best return on your spiritual investment during this month.
Let's switch from the soul to the body. Section 5. The biological impact. We have medical journals and clinical research in our source stack. What is actually happening to the human machine when you stop eating for 14, 15, 16 hours a day for a month?
It's essentially a metabolic reset. Your body is forced to switch gears. For most of the year, we're running on glucose from the carbs we eat constantly.
A snack and meal conveyor belt.
Right. But when you don't have that constant glucose coming in, after about 12 hours, your body says, "Okay, time for plan B." It starts burning stored fat for fuel. This is the state of ketosis. But the sources highlight something even cooler that happens during this switch: autophagy.
Yes, autophagy. I keep hearing this term in longevity circles and biohacking podcasts. It means self-eating, right?
That's the literal translation from the Greek. And it sounds like a horror movie, but it's actually an amazing Nobel Prize-winning discovery.
So what is it?
When the body isn't busy digesting food constantly, which, by the way, takes up a huge amount of energy, it starts cleaning house. It has the resources to go into repair mode. Your cells create these special membranes that hunt down damaged cell parts, misfolded proteins, viruses, bacteria, and old cellular machinery that's just clogging up the system.
All the junk.
All the junk. And it engulfs it and recycles it into new, usable parts. It's the ultimate cellular renewal program. And intermittent fasting, like in Ramadan, is one of the most powerful ways to trigger it.
So you're literally taking out the cellular trash every single day for a month.
Exactly. And the clinical research backs this up with hard data. The studies in our notes show significant improvements in lipid profiles. We see a reduction in LDL, the bad cholesterol, and often an increase in HDL, the good stuff.
And other markers.
Blood pressure often drops, systemic inflammation markers go down. There's evidence of improved insulin sensitivity, which is huge for preventing type 2 diabetes.
There's a trap, a big one. The source warns about the weight trap. I call it the samosa paradox.
Ah, yes. The great Ramadan paradox. You see this all the time. You're fasting all day, burning fat, triggering autophagy, cleaning your cells. You feel great. But then the sun sets. And what do people do?
They feast. It's a celebration.
They feast. And often it's a feast of fried foods, heavy starches, sugary drinks, and rich desserts. Massive amounts of calories are consumed in a short window.
And often right before you go to bed.
So you undo all the metabolic good work with a massive insulin spike. You go from this fat-burning cleanup state to an aggressive fat storage state in a matter of minutes.
So paradoxically, a lot of people actually gain weight in Ramadan.
It's very common. To get the full biological benefits, the eating window needs to be healthy and moderate, not a gluttonous free-for-all.
What about mental health?
Yeah.
The sources mention the psychology of discipline and its effects.
This is really interesting. Studies have shown reduced rates of depression and anxiety during the month. Part of it is obviously the community aspect, breaking fast together, praying together. That releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone.
You feel connected.
But another part of it is the dopamine regulation. We live in an instant gratification world. I want it, I buy it, I eat it, I click it. Fasting is a hard stop to that loop. It forces you to wait. It forces delayed gratification. And that can actually help reset the brain's reward system sensitivity.
It's a dopamine detox. Things start to feel more rewarding again because you're not constantly bombarding your system.
It is. It quiets the noise. It teaches you that you can survive an urge, that you are in control, not your impulses. And that is incredibly empowering.
That's actually a great segue into our last section, strategy.
Sure.
Because if you want to succeed in this boot camp, you can't just wing it. The sources are clear that preparation is key.
You wouldn't just show up on race day and try to run a marathon without training. It would be a disaster. The Prophet's own habit was to fast frequently in Shaban, the month that comes right before Ramadan.
To warm up the engine.
To warm up the engine. It gets the body and mind used to the rhythm. So the first week of Ramadan isn't a total shock to the system. You know, the caffeine withdrawal headaches, the extreme fatigue, the hangriness.
So you ease into it. And once you're in the month, you need a game plan. One source mentions applying the habit loop technique.
This is straight out of modern behavioral psychology. Charles Duhigg's stuff. The idea is trigger, routine, reward. If you want to use this month to build a new positive habit, say reading more of the Quran or meditating, don't just say, I'll read more. That's vague and likely to fail.
Right, you need to be specific.
You need to engineer the habit. So set a clear trigger. When my phone alarm for the afternoon prayer goes off, that's the cue, the routine. I will read for 10 minutes, the reward. After I read, I get to have that specific treat I've been looking forward to at iftar, or maybe the reward is just the internal feeling of peace and accomplishment.
I like the buddy system idea from the sources too. Accountability partners.
Oh, it's essential. It's so hard to do this alone, especially when your energy is low. Having someone to check in with, hey, did you read your portion today? Or did you manage to avoid gossiping at work? It keeps you honest. It outsources your willpower on the days when you're just tired.
And the digital detox. The sources were pretty strong on this point.
They call it time theft, which is a great term. Social media is designed to steal your attention. If you're fasting from food and water, but you're gorging on TikToks and Instagram reels for 6 hours a day, you're starving the body, but you're cluttering the mind.
You're missing the spiritual signal because of all the digital noise.
You are. The goal is a detox on all fronts.
Finally, the ultimate goal is post-Ramadan continuity. The source says the objective isn't to be a saint for 30 days and then a sinner on day 31.
That's the real litmus test of a successful Ramadan. Did you exit the month with a new, higher baseline for your character and habits? If you drop all the good habits the second the moon is sighted for the Eid festival, then it was just a temporary performance.
It was a spiritual sprint, not a change in lifestyle.
Exactly. The goal is to carry that taqwa, that shield, that alertness with you for the next 11 months of the year.
So let's bring this all together. We've looked at the theology, the law, the biology, the psychology, and the strategy. It's clear that Ramadan isn't just a month of hunger.
No, not at all. It's a convergence. It's where law, fiqh, meets spirit, taqwa, meets body, health. It's a masterclass in delaying gratification in a world that is completely built on instant gratification.
And that leads me to our final thought,
Yeah.
something I really want you, our listener, to sit with. We live in a world where everything is performative. We post our workouts, we post our healthy meals, we post our charitable donations. We crave validation and likes for our good deeds.
And here's an act that is explicitly designed from its very core to be invisible.
Exactly. The invisible deed. You could cheat at any moment and no one would know. But you don't. For 30 days, you hold a secret between you and the divine. What does that do to the human ego? To have a secret that isn't shameful, but is sacred.
It quiets the ego. It teaches the self that its worth is not dependent on an audience, and that is a rare, rare thing in our modern world.
So whether you're fasting this year or not, think about that. What is the fast you can undertake in your own life to regain control over your impulses? What is the invisible deed you can do that is just for you and for the truth, with no audience and no applause?
A powerful question to end on.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Take care.